Hey ho, fellow comic readers, and welcome to Prolix Comics Bollix. I'm Slim Wrists McKenna, and he is.
Still just Nick. It's too early in the morning for me
Wow. It's quite
to be
interesting to. I've been observing Nick's morning routine, and it takes
as
him a
he
while to.
slowly
He's a
wakes up.
slow fucker, he is. Yeah,
Oh yes,
yeah,
yes. I do not deal well with transitions, Clive. It's yeah. I need to be eased ever so slowly into my day.
yeah.
So
Or
it's your
maybe not.
choice,
Maybe you should try the opposite. Maybe you should get
hmm?
like you need shock treatment, right? Maybe what you need is
Right?
when your alarm goes off, like your
Mhm.
bed's on like this spring-mounted thing that
Yeah, like it's like a
throws you out
Rube.
the window,
Yes,
and you
a
land in
Rube
a
Goldberg, a
yeah,
Rube
yeah,
Goldberg
yeah,
machine. Yes, yeah, like looking the wrong trousers or whatever. Yeah,
yeah.
shoots me out
That
into a
might
into a
be just
bathtub
what
of.
you need.
Yeah, yeah, a bathtub full of ice cubes, maybe,
Yeah, and you just
and
be
then like
whoop, whoop,
bright,
hey,
bright lights.
fucking morning.
I would projectile vomit instantaneously is what would actually happen, Clive. I think I would be violently
You
ill.
definitely should invest all the time, energy, and money in
Mm,
building it.
mm,
This extremely unlikely contraption,
hmm.
just on my say so, and it might. I think I'm onto something. This might
Could
change
be,
your
could
life.
be.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Do you have a garden you could put a pool of cold
Oh
water in?
yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's
You'd have
very
to keep
doable.
the window open during the night or have that on a timer because
Also
otherwise
have
you just
to,
go through the
have to
glass and die, and that would
yeah, I'm also gonna have to figure out a way, maybe have to buy, you can buy those beds that are actually like two separate mattresses that kind of slot together because I don't
oh
think a
yeah,
wife
because your wife
is
will
gonna
be
want to come with me.
very angry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
Because she's like, I don't have any problem getting up in the morning.
yeah.
This is your fucking yeah.
Well, yeah. Um, anyway, it is your choice, this
Oh
time.
yeah. Oh yeah.
You chose something kind of weird, I have to say. And I'm wondering how this was even on your radar because well, I'll talk about how it was sort of on mine a bit later on. But
I don't know. It's funny. We mentioned this a little bit on the other show, and if you allow me to be ever
yeah,
so go off and it's funny. I what I like about doing the comics podcast in particular is if I'm not doing anything about film, I kind of feel very how can I say, like I've turned film and thinking about film and writing about film into a lot of different things for me.
right.
So not that it's not that it's certainly not it's certainly not financially remunerative, but it's not like
Hmm.
it's not a it's I don't know, it's just
It's not work.
no, it is but
It is work. Okay.
but it's I feel as if like I know enough that I there's a certain obligation to create context
Hmm.
and stuff like that. Where somehow with comics, it's one of those few hobbies that I have that I'm genuinely a casual enthusiast,
Right.
or at least by my standards.
Hmm.
I probably read more comics than maybe your average person who isn't a comics reader.
Right. Yeah.
But for me, at least, it's a very casual. I don't think at first I was like, yes, okay, I'm going to get up to speed with. But actually, after a while, I realized no. What I quite like about this is I can just
Yep.
wander around the comics. What's
Hmm.
that? Throw it away. Never heard.
Right.
Whereas anything else, I'd be no. What do you? No, write that down. What's that? What's it linked to that? Who did? You
Hmm.
know. But with
Yes.
comics, for some reason, I do genuinely feel like, okay, this is just cherry picking,
Hmm.
for some reason, I don't get weird about it. I get weird about other things, but comics, I'm like, no, that's has its
Yeah,
place,
it's
and
funny.
yeah,
But now I know what you're saying. There's almost something more, this will shock comic fans, but something more disposable about comics, I think maybe. But I don't know why I feel that way as well. Because I mean, films are also in a way, film and novels. I mean, they're all kind of disposable you know,
Yes,
we
yes. Oh shit.
I'm
That's
always
fucking
I'm always kind of fascinated by, for example, like how about you'll be reading a book about some writer you're interested in, and then they'll mention this other writer from the same era who was much more successful and famous, and you're like, I don't know who that person is at all. You know,
Hmm.
like but popular culture has always been kind of massively disposable, and that like, yeah, 20 years from now, will anyone remember the books of like, say, John Grisham, right?
Hmm.
Somebody who was that, or I mean, maybe Michael Crichton because of Jurassic Park, but you know what I mean. There were these bestsellers, these fat books on every
Right.
rotating turnstile that, for a moment, are part of the zeitgeist and then are just gone. And
Right.
I feel like with comics, there's just so much of it. Like
Yeah,
you're right,
I
you
mean,
go
I'm
into a comic book store and you're kind of overwhelmed by like, what is all
right.
of this?
I
You
mean,
know?
that's an interesting point, but I seem to have sent you off in a tangent on your own there, which
Yes,
is
yes,
fine. But
Mhm.
that's not exactly what I was saying. I was just
Yes.
for me,
Mhm.
as opposed to I wasn't making a larger
Mhm.
cultural comment.
But I think for me too, like I would say that I also, even though probably I have a longer history of, and I probably read a
Well,
bit
you've been
more
a lot more
comics.
invested in comics than I have.
Yeah, but at the same point, um, you just can't. You'd go completely mad if you were attempting to kind of like keep up or have a sense, or certainly if you were dealing with like mainstream comic, stuff. Like, I mean, we've talked about this before, but I feel like it's very impenetrable for young readers now to try to attempt to enter into any of these, like the world of DC Comics or Marvel Comics or whatever, because they've got this 60, 70, 80 year long continuity that you have to deal with. Um,
Hmm.
that I think even I'm put off. I'm just like, oh, fuck, I can't be dealing with that. I don't care. Like, I don't care to do the investiture of time necessary to get a sense of the big picture of this. Um,
Right. Right. Again, though,
I know. Yes,
we're
I
gonna
agree
get
with you,
kicked off
but
here. But no. But
yeah.
I mean, yeah. But that's with a lot of. I mean, if you're not interested in, I would imagine for some people watching all the classic films or something would seem like a chore rather
Right.
than a pleasure, right?
Mhm.
But those people might still be filmmakers, but they don't have the baggage of having to know all the history and stuff. They just kind of anyway,
Mm.
regardless of
Mm.
why,
Yeah, yeah.
I did choose some comics.
Yes, you did.
I always find quite tricky. I have to say that's another thing, even though the cherry picking aspect is fun. I also find this is by far the most difficult thing to choose things for me.
Right.
Books and films, that's fine. Plenty.
Mhm.
Comics, I have I have to think about it a little bit. Again,
Mhm.
because I'm not really willing to invest time in something that I don't
Yes.
find. But then at the other time, like this a little bit, I'm also a bit like, oh, that's a bit of fun. Like,
Mhm.
do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Anyway, yeah, so I chose the what do you call them? The
Rock.
revolutionary comics, rock and roll comics.
Yeah.
Which is interesting though, because looking at some of the scans we saw that people have put online, if you look at the back pages as well, it seems there was a wider world of like comics about the Beatles and movie stars and other music.
Yes, they seem to have had some kind of sub
Yeah.
imprint. I think they started out with the rock and roll comics, and then yeah, they had
Are
like
you familiar
what?
with any? Well, actually, are you familiar with? And actually, were you? Because I didn't know this at all. It was just, and you asked me why. I'll be
Mhm.
honest, I just can't remember. I stumbled across hearing about this somewhere, and I thought, oh, that sounds vaguely interesting.
Mhm.
So let's do it. And then they were available there, easy to see. Um, but it seemed when I mentioned it to you, it did trigger a little bit of a
Yes,
memory for you, didn't it?
yes, yeah, it did. Specifically for some reason, it was the I Hate New Kids on the Block comic that I remember kind of being or the We Hate New Kids. Although it was something along those lines. But anyway, it wasn't the initial issue, which is funny that that was the one that they got in so much trouble for, because the first one was very much like a straight, there's not nothing really negative, and it's almost like a puff piece about the New Kids on the
Yes.
Block, and then there's a bit of Mad Magazine-y parody stuff
I think that might
back.
be it. The new Kids on the Rag
Right, okay.
segment that might have caused
Cause the
some
problems,
people
right.
to get, yeah, because I don't know. The Wahlberg strike me as if maybe being ever so
Humorous?
slightly humorless. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Um, so but I mean, so I remember seeing them but like they pointed out, like maybe not so much in comic book stores because of the issues around litigation that the company experienced. Like they had a lot of trouble finding distributors that were willing to distribute them to normal comic book stores. So they kind of had to find an alternate uh, point of sale for their comics. So that's why their comics end up in record stores and in places you wouldn't necessarily expect to see comics.
Hmm.
I do remember that. I remember going to kind of head shops, places like that, and that's where you would find, oh, they've got comics here, you know, um, or the kind of places where you might be more likely to find um, Zap and the kind of like the undergrounds,
Right.
or
Right.
like Fantagraphics and Drawn and Quarterly, that kind of stuff. Um, but but yeah, in some ways they seem to. I mean, I think their major legacy appears to have been how often they were embroiled in like litigation, right?
Yeah, well, apparently Axl Rose was a common feature of the letters page, right?
Yep.
Um, I mean, it's a kind of an interesting story. I think in the end, I'll probably be saying more about the documentary than anything
Yep.
else because
hmm
it's, I don't know, it's an odd, it's like, it's very,
So maybe we should explain really briefly what it is. So
right. Well,
basically,
yeah, go on.
so Todd Loran, who starts the company, um, he I guess is inspired. Apparently, there was a an issue called like "Hey Boss" or something like that of some other. It was a one
Bruce
shot comic
Springsteen.
about Bruce Springsteen. Yeah,
Yeah.
from another like little mini independent comic. He was inspired to create rock and roll comics, and so they're unauthorized biographies of rock bands and rock stars. So the first issue was devoted to Guns N' Roses, and then you got Metallica, Bon Jovi, Motley Crue. They start kind of in a kind of heavy metal, hair metal, hard rock thing, and then slowly you start getting like issue 12 is New Kids on the Block.
Very slowly.
Yeah. You get a Sex Pistols issue at issue 14. Then randomly there's a Madonna issue. Um, and then they do some rap. They do Public Enemy, Two Live Crew, Ice-T, Ice Cube. Um, I didn't, I should have read the Mojo Nixon. Why did I not read the Mojo Nixon one? I'm realizing now because he's all over that documentary.
Yeah.
It's funny that
I
I
quite
didn't.
enjoyed the split one with Hawkwind and Motorhead and
Me too.
yeah,
Yes.
that
Yeah,
was
the kind of
good.
space, and the very last issue was their space rock issue, which
Right.
I liked as well. But yeah, so they're in black and white, so they were they were as a lot of independent comics tended to be at this time, like color covers, black and white interiors. Um, and as I said, maybe most interesting is the actual comics themselves are very hit and miss, obviously, right?
Well,
Uh,
let's talk about this, right? Because
okay.
what I found reading was kind of obviously the now and again some of the more peripheral stuff towards the back, the artwork can get a bit
Ropey.
interesting. But in
hmm
general, it's all pretty well. And I didn't really
Reasonably
look up
sleek.
who did them and whatever. But it's good. It's good work. It's good work, right?
hmm
It's good, solid comic, art.
hmm
Um, but it's an odd one, and they talk about this a little bit in the documentary about like what's allowed to be a comic and what isn't allowed to be a
hmm
comic, or what people expect from a comic. And yes, by and large, you tend to just think, well, yeah, of course, you should be allowed to do this and this or whatever in whatever art form or whatever.
hmm
There shouldn't be any barriers. But then you realize, yeah, but there are certain rules or trends that we follow, not because they're imposed, just because, oh, that just works. That's some things
hmm
don't work as well, right? And reading rock and roll comic, like there's nothing wrong with them. Like I said, they're well laid out and they look nice and they tell the story. And occasionally there's a thing which you wouldn't maybe read in an authorized biography, or there's
hmm
a nice little. But again, they're not really hatchet jobs, any of
No,
the
they're
ones
not
I
at
saw.
all. No.
But somehow getting your information about a band from a comic just feels strange.
Yes.
to me.
Yes.
Not bad. I'm not saying bad
Hmm.
or negative. It just,
Hmm.
oh, this is not the way, the vessel for this
Hmm.
information that I would normally choose. I'd read a biography or I'll watch a
Right.
film or something like that. So
Hmm.
it's not inherently bad in anything. It's well done actually for what it is, but it's just I don't necessarily think that's the way I want to approach this
A band.
topic.
Right. Yeah, no, I can see that. And I would say for me, because so actually, so when these comics come out is interesting to me, right? They come out 89, 1991. So often, for example, like the Metallica issue, like their second issue ends with like, basically, and Justice for All coming out, and they're like, will this be, will they continue to have success? And as a reader, if you know anything about Metallica, yes, the album that follows this is going to be um, a huge. It's gonna have like crossover radio success or whatever, right? So often they're dated in that way, but in an interesting way to me. But they're also dated in such a way that I learned nothing new about the bands I already knew about
Right,
from reading these,
right.
right? So what was most interesting for me was reading like, oh, the Cure issue, for example. I realized
Yes, I read that one.
I
Yeah,
know nothing about the Cure, like
no,
fuck nothing, other
no.
than Fridays I'm in Love and like that I like a few of the songs, and I know
Yeah, I
Robert.
know the music, but I don't know them.
I knew zero about their band, so that I found issues where actually I didn't know the band much more
Well,
interesting
most,
to me
yes, yes.
than when I was like, okay, yes, I have. Especially like for example, like the Ice-T issue, which depends so heavily on his own lyrics, where I'm like, yeah, I listened to these songs when I was in high school,
Right.
you
I
know.
suppose what's interesting as well, though, is like you said, I know because I know this stuff, but it's very difficult and it would depend on each band. But I'm wondering how much of this was actually published ahead of, the biographies or autobiographies or things which we have heard
Yes,
this stuff from.
since
So
yeah.
I'm guessing this was pipped some of that stuff to the post, right? To use a
Mhm.
phrase I've never used before in my life. But I just realized where the fuck did that go? Fuck. The other day I was talking to my mum um on here,
Mhm.
not on the show, but on
Yeah,
on
we
this
should
whatever.
totally have her on, but go
Yeah,
on.
oh, she'd be awesome. And I used the phrase, I can't remember what it was. I was saying something was going great guns. And I was like,
Mm.
what the fuck just came out of my mouth? No one said that since the 30s or something. Like, what the
Yep,
fuck? Where
yep.
did that come from?
I keep trying to remember to work in more like of my mum's Irishisms,
Oh, okay. Oh
like
no,
yeah.
don't get me wrong. My mum doesn't say great guns
Oh,
either.
I'm sure she doesn't, but like I would love to say things like, sure we're on the pig's back now. Uh,
Nothing stopping you.
no, it's true.
I,
I
I
was
feel
saying
you've said it at least twice
I
on here,
just
so
need to remember to use it more often,
right.
I remember my
We
mom
could
also
call a show about something. We're on the pig's back
pig's back
now.
now. Yes,
It's actually quite a good title.
it is. And actually, another one would be Wigs on the Green. That would be a good name for a show as well. My mom
Oh,
always said like there'll be wigs on the green.
what's that mean?
Well, I assume it comes from. It was said in a threatening manner, like if this happens, fuck, there'll be wigs on the green. I think it comes from dueling pistols with like when people wore the like in the duelists when people wore you
Ah,
go out to
okay.
the
Wigs on the
green,
green.
you go
I
out
thought
to
it
the
was going to be
green.
wigs like conservative party
No, I
wigs.
think it's
Oh,
actual like yeah, yeah,
there's wigs on the green.
green.
I like that. I like the sound of that. I mean, I'm not quite sure how often it would happen, and it's fucking
My
wigs on the
fa
green again.
my
But
favorite one of my mom's actually was her shouting up the stairs, if I have to come up there, there'll be skin and hair flying. And I always remember being like, "Ooh, that sounds bad." Anyway, um, yeah. So for me, you know, like reading about the Doors, for example, like the two issues about the Doors, I knew the vast. I mean, I've seen the film, I read the book, that the comics are drawn because in some cases the comics have been drawn from, like the Led Zeppelin book would have come out before, right?
right, right.
The
By the
Doors.
way, little tip: uh, save yourself a lot of time and pain. Read the Doors comic. Don't watch the Oliver Stone film. I would
Well, there
say.
you go. Yes, I haven't seen it since it came out. I don't.
I had another run at it recently.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. But then again, my main problem with that anything Dawes is I've never really worshipped at the temple of Jim Morrison, and he just seems like a
Yes.
massive twat.
Wanker.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. But I
Uh,
do like the music and I do like his
I like
voice.
some of it, yeah, but I'm not
But
big enough a fan that I'd overlook bad behavior like Maggie Smith or
right.
something like that.
Yes, yes. Um, but so yeah, so that was my biggest takeaway was like for me the issues of this that I actually got the most out of were issues about bands that I knew the least about. And then often when it was a case, and there were certain ones like I tried reading the U2 issues and the American author's complete lack of understanding of
Ah,
like Irish idiom, like people saying things like sweater instead of like jumper. I
right,
was just like, nope, nope,
right.
nope. Like this
It's like
doesn't
those
work for me.
Diane Smith books that they changed pounds to dollars and but
Yes.
nothing else. And what?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, there was something very awkward about that. But
yeah,
and
yeah. I
weirdly,
can imagine that.
I
Yeah, that would
enjoyed
be.
I enjoyed some of
What's up
the
there, Colin? Would you be going to the school prom this week?
exactly, exactly. That's exactly the kind of shit that was all over uh, the U2 issue. But uh, but yeah, I mean, I found the rap issues actually kind of enjoyable. I did the Ice T and Ice Cube because they were very much in my limited experience of rap. They were the bands I was listening to at that time.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, so it's an interesting. I'm not rushing out to read anymore, but
mhm.
oddly enough, if I had a stack of them next to me, like actual physical copies, I can
Yeah.
imagine it would be the kind of thing I'd take to the toilet with me or something like
Oh
that.
yeah.
Quite
Yeah.
enjoy. Yeah, so I'm glad they exist. I'm glad they exist, and yeah, again, I can't remember how I stumbled across them, but it is interesting. And also, this brings us on to the doc. So you talk about
Mhm.
Todd Loren and how he ended up getting murdered, and you talk about different, the kind of. So this is a really good example of a doc like.
Which I didn't know anything about. I had no
No,
idea that
I didn't know that. I'm
that
glad
the,
you
the
found
founder of
it.
the company was murdered
Unauthorized.
at
I'm proud
32,
of it, right?
very very young, like in his early 30s, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
But what's interesting for me about it is it's a type of doc. I feel a lot of these, especially like the early years of the 21st century, there were more of them before we got that bland, everything looks like Netflix. We
yeah,
must have a drone shot look,
yeah.
you know.
Hmm.
Before things started getting a little bit flattened out in that realm. And I hope we get out of that rut a little bit because I do like
Hmm.
the documentaries because the documentary doesn't necessarily. I get it. Like if you can make it, like if you're an Errol Morris, for
Hmm.
example, actually this is another rant I could go. I have a thing because I fucking love it, Errol Morris, but it's
Hmm.
interesting how everyone copies Errol Morris now in documentaries.
Right.
And it has weirdly become like the de rigueur way of making a modern. But then when he does it, it's still better than when other people do it because he
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
knows, like
Yes,
even
it's
something simple
it's
like
his idiom, right? It's his
yeah,
idiom.
even something real simple setup, nothing complicated. That documentary about John le Carre that came out
Hmm.
like a couple of years ago, fucking say that so good, you know.
Hmm.
But anyway, I digress. So yeah, so obviously if you're that's what you needed, then brilliant. But um, you don't have to do that route, right? And
Hmm.
also the documentary is something like yeah, you can be like an Errol Morris or Vanessa, and the documentary turns into something else
Hmm.
almost. It's like it's almost a documentary as a framework for doing something else. But there's great value to be had in proper, just good old documents, right?
Hmm.
And I felt as if Unauthorized and Proud of It was a good example of like it's not there's nothing special about it. It's very kind of bog standard but well enough done doc. And you wouldn't rush it like if you're not interested in the topic or it's not a documentary that you should
Yes.
see
Hmm.
unless you're primed to see a
Yeah.
documentary about this topic.
Hmm.
But if you want to know the not mind-blowing or life-changing but relatively interesting story of Todd
Hmm.
Loren and Revolutionary Comics, this does it
Yeah.
quite
Yeah.
well. And
Hmm.
when you're ready to see it, after you've read some comics, and you might reason not interested. But if you're like, oh, I really want to know more, oh, there's a doc. It's exactly how we found it. Oh, we didn't
Yeah.
know. And you put it on and say, oh, that's exactly what I needed to know about that. And that
Yes. Yeah.
and that's good enough.
Hmm.
So it's an invaluable little document that one day someone has to go to the drawer and take it off a shelf and open it and look at it and that's interesting, put it back. But
Hmm.
that has value.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed. Um, yeah, it's very, very watchable. And as I said, it gives you exactly kind of the context that you need to better understand. And one of the things that I really took away from it, I mean, you see it on the page. I didn't read a lot of um, the front stuff, like the letters pages or
No,
like
no.
Todd's endless, railing against censorship and the rest of it, right? Because you can't get away from like there is an element of hucksterism. There is an element of
Oh,
kind
of
of like,
course. Yeah.
about all of this, right? And there's no question that he was aware that the more controversy they could gin up, the more chance that people actually
Yeah.
buying the
Yeah.
issues, right?
And the
So,
doctors do a good job of showing the two very different sides, like, and how people reacted so very differently to him as well. Like,
well, I mean, yeah, because I mean that's really quite because normally if I was watching a documentary about comics and Gary Groth and Dennis Kitchen show up,
mm,
not expecting them to be the villains of the piece. Right? That's
yes,
not ever the case, right? I mean, Gary Gross is the founder of the Comics Journal, but then also Fantagraphics, right?
right,
Basically, um, and Dennis Kitchen is Kitchen Sink Press, and he was the Comics Legal Defense Fund, and
right.
obviously published a bunch of crumb stuff comes out of Kitchen
Yeah.
Sink Press. So like these are dudes, but they fucking hate Todd. Like it's just dripping, and like
Yeah.
the man's been murdered, and they're still like
Yeah. It is well,
they
it also
still
makes you
loathe
think,
him.
like, what's your problem? But also it makes you think, yeah, well, if they still hit him that much and after, like, how bad was he? That's the other
Well, that's the
potential way of
thing
looking at it,
because
right?
because both of them are both people who I respect normally. And so it really did make me think like how much of this documentary is short selling what a dick Todd may have actually been, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, certainly the thing that comes through when they are given a chance to speak is they have questions around the exploitation of the talent, right? Like, I mean, people were being paid. Obviously, they felt underpaid for their work, artists especially, right? And then the
Yeah.
work was being kept, not returned to them, and being because that's something that
Yeah.
unscrupulous comic publishers
Well,
will
that's what I'm
do.
going to say is, don't get me wrong, I'm not, it's worth bringing up and you shouldn't sweep it under the carpet just because, but what I mean is, but that doesn't sound like it would have been singular to revolutionary comics. That's a bit of a
No, no,
problem comics
it is
industry has
part of.
always had, right?
Oh, for sure. Um, so I think in the case of Dennis Kitchen, probably it more comes from Todd's openly kind of goading and baiting him for his lack of support
Right,
during the legal stuff, right? But
right,
anyway, and basically their argument is like, no, we defended stuff based on, like famously Mike Diana, who we're eventually going to talk about at some point, right? Who
mm,
got thrown in jail, right, for his Boiled Angel comics.
yeah,
I mean, Dennis Kitchen went to bat for him. But he would have argued, well, he was being prosecuted for his art, not for um, copyright violation.
yes, no, it's a very different case, right?
Right. And
Yeah,
so that's why they were like, no. But at the same point, I think Todd Lauren and the rest of them, they're right to say, well, then we went up to bat for everyone's right to use comics as a medium to do this kind of unauthorized biography stuff, right?
it's funny. The other thing that makes me think of, in just in terms of, oh, that's an admirable thing to do, but everything else about that person is
Is
usually something that just
hmm
is. I'm thinking a similar phrase similar to do with the the legal advisory stickers on CDs is Frank Zappa, right? Like, Frank
yes.
Zappa was one of the few people in the industry who
Yeah.
actually stepped up,
Yeah.
right?
D. Snyder from Twisted Sister,
Yeah,
Frank Zappa, John fucking Denver, Jello Biafra. They are the four
right.
who went to bat
Yeah.
hard against that stuff.
And yes, you're right. Mojo Nixon's all over this documentary.
Right. Very, very
Yeah, yeah,
larger
he's
than
into
life.
it. He's into it. I'll give him that.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, you can't fault this documentary because the other thing I just wrote that I don't know what this means. I don't know if you agree with this, but I've written down with three exclamation marks. It's so American.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Hence, maybe their inability to write a decent U2 comic. Um, Funny enough, the British comics didn't strike me as being as awkward in that way of having
No,
so
not that
many.
tenured, I didn't think. No.
Yeah, but something
No.
about that U2 comic is
I mean,
they
I don't
have
give a
gotten it
shit because
wrong.
I don't care about you too, so that's fine.
No, no, as I said, neither do I. So I was okay with giving up after 2 pages. I was like, nope. Um,
Yeah, I don't want to hear the Borneo story.
no, no. Oh, wait, we should also say Alice Cooper appears in. He's probably
Oh
the
yeah, he's
the
quite
talking head.
gracious about the whole
He
thing.
always is, and he always is good. I mean, he's
Yeah,
one of the best
he's a bit of a
things
class
about
act, is
decline of.
Vince.
Yeah, I was gonna say decline of what is it? Western Civilization Part Two. He's
Right,
definitely one of the standout. Him and Lemmy are the two smartest people in that documentary
right,
by a long stretch.
right.
Um,
And some good early stuff as well.
Robert Williams appears in it as well.
Oh yeah,
Who did I guess he did a cover for one of their issues that got them in trouble with.
he's quite an interesting interviewee actually.
Yeah, I'd like to read more of him and know more. I mean, obviously, I think I remember the whole controversy around the piece of art that he sold and then regretted he sold to Guns N' Roses, right?
Right. There might be a doc about him actually.
Yes, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Um, but
Anyway, there we go. Rock and roll
hmm,
comics.
hmm.
Um, well, yeah,
I
we
think
said it
truly
all.
your
Yeah,
mileage will vary here,
yeah.
depending on
But
how much.
it was an interesting little interlude.
Mhm.
I'm quite glad we took a look at it. Even though we have no real great takeaways, but it was yeah, like I said, this is the advantage sometimes of the wandering around like a clueless buffoon
Yes,
approach.
yes.
Yeah,
Sometimes you find things that yeah you wouldn't
yeah.
necessarily. And as I said, overall, probably slightly better than I would have expected.
Yes, agreed,
You know,
agreed. Not
um,
not embarrassing, not embarrassing.
yes, yeah. I was interested actually. So there, as you mentioned, they did have these spin-off titles. They also apparently had an erotic line, uh,
Yes.
which was yeah, always, which I guess it was the bread and butter for so many of those independent
Right.
publishers of the time. Um, but I was interested. They came back to certain bands and expanded and did multi-issue. So they did a Pink Floyd like multi-issue thing, right? They did one for Led Zeppelin because I remember in the documentary they're talking about how, oh yeah, we had to put in the famous lobster sex scene or whatever,
Ah, yeah, 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 yeah.
and then I'm reading and I was like, it's not in there, but I'm guessing it's in the longer 5 issue,
Right.
thing they did. But anyway, um,
Yeah.
yeah.
There'll be more comics again, no doubt.
Yes, yes, I have some stuff lined up for next time that I think we'll find fun to talk about. We'll see.
Okay. Until then,
Toodle pip.
bye bye.